Well,
Thank you.
the speaker of the evening is Professor Ayyaz Ali Khan from Pakistan. He is a member of the Faculty of General Dental Practitioners in UK. He is a fellow of the International College of Surgeons of the United States of America, a fellow of the Royal Society of
Stop
Health.
share.
He is also served as an examiner for the MCPS College of Physicians and Surgeons of Pakistan, a dean of Institution of Advanced Dental Studies and Research, the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the Pakistan Dental Association. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me share the slides with you first. I would like to thank the organizers for having me on board. And at the same time, I must admit how clever they have been in getting about 3 conferences done in this 2.5 hours of work. I think each of the speaker has been phenomenal, and I was given the task of answering these 3 questions, which are in fact hidden 5 questions. So I could actually, if you ask me, I could actually hold a whole conference on these 5 questions that you have placed in. You see, what happened was that we all, like starting from Irfan, coming right up to Professor Anwar, who just finished before me, we all are talking in terms of the new norms and how we have to change. But what has happened with us? I am a 40-year-old graduate. I graduated in 1980. And when I graduated, we graduated as wet-handed dentists. So our training was that of wet-handed dentists. I moved on to Africa, so I was hit earlier. And in that aspect, I land in Africa, and here in comes HIV. AIDS was there, and we had to get our gloves on, we had to get our masks on, and we had to get our goggles on. And then I come back to Pakistan, and we have hepatitis C. So we get geared because of the hepatitis C and HIV. We are geared towards mainly bloodborne diseases. So the training was like that. Now what we have airborne and touch to add on to this. So we are practically going to have our future students trained on a slightly higher level than what we have been trained, and how we have been training our own kids at undergrad level on infection control. And although the disease, the COVID pandemic started in somewhere in January, early this year, it hit the subcontinent region and the area of Southeast Asia that we are somewhere in March. And as this thing came around, we had a series of webinars coming in. It became the fashion. And I think we had a second pandemic coming in. So we had the COVID pandemic, and the COVID pandemic was accompanied by the webinar pandemic. So I'll go along with the first question, which asked me is, how has webinaritis influenced learning? So chronologically speaking, we had in March, we had a massive excitement. I was on the Zoom half a day every day, and it was so provided. So I had 6 meetings going on. There were video conferencing, online lectures took place. So as I said earlier, along with COVID, webinaritis became a pandemic. Next month, so it only took 30 days. Next month, we all started to become wary of these virtual meetings, and we started to become wary of the conversation that were being done online. We are not used to it. So we had to sort of adapt to it, and it became a sort of a burden. And people started talking about webinars, which they were doing till last month, as webinaritis, itis, inflammatory process that goes on. So the swelling was going up, and the things were getting hot, and now the pain was starting to set in. And in all honesty, what we've been doing is, like, we are on Zoom right now. Since May 2020, Zoom fatigue came in. on board, and they are psychologists who are actually conducting studies on this subject. So this has become a psychological burden now. No, and then webinaritis became one of the most popular hashtag on Twitter. Next month, June, 2 months ago, 47 universities, I think it was 7 in the East and about 40 odd universities in the West, in where students started to demand a refund because they felt that oh, sorry, my apologies. Hold on. I am such an illiterate on this thing. They felt that they have not got their money's worth. And people started to reject webinar writers or online lectures. There were examples that were right, left, and center. There were online conferences with 700 odd registrations, and only 15 odd people coming online while the conference was being run. So basically, the biggest challenge I feel today is to make an online learning into a meaningful, engaging, and a valuable exercise. We do talk about webinars and online training, but honestly, they are not taking the impact that they are supposed to be taking. So, what is the transition towards e-learning processes? It has been said, it's not now, it was post pre-COVID as well. I have seen articles way back in 2004, coming down to 2008, 9, when it started to heat up. 2011, 12, I've got a huge number of article which was integrating e-learning into the dental education. And it has huge potential. There is no questions about that. And it can be used very successfully to be integrated into the dental school curriculum to increase the perception, like Professor Anwar discussed just now earlier than I was, about the fundamental concept and the students being able to apply this knowledge to clinical cases. Very recently, right up in 2019, and by the way, previously 2009, I actually saw a PhD thesis. I saw a PhD thesis from University of Birmingham by a young lady on the same topic. But in 2019, it was proposed that it should be a basic supplementary tool, a basic tool to enhance medical and dental education. However, majority of the studies, what they show is that there is a difference between the student's perception and the teacher's perception. So we are not, as teachers, with all of us as teachers, we have not been able to adapt to online teaching as much as we should have. Students are enthusiastic about it, but what we do is we have our concerns, so we hold on to our maybe information sharing, or because we feel that maybe this information may not be very good for the students, and maybe how do I divide the workload? So I believe that the fault is with us. We have not changed as teachers as much as we should have. We are, maybe because of the fact that we are not that much computer savvy, or we are not that much app savvy. And the younger generation is. So we need to adapt to that as well. So let me see how do we take the transition from e-learning to e-teaching. What the first step is that we need to determine what the dental students' preferences are regarding the use of online applications. What social media do they use, and what databases can be incorporated into e-learning of the dental school. It could just not be just the online lecturing that we most of us have been doing. A lot of things are around the world. They are available, starting from simulations, going up to educational games. There is augmented reality that has come in, and there is virtual reality. in which the processes can be managed by just virtual reality. However, we talk about technology. It's not about technology. Technology only comes into life when people contact with it. And that is where we lack. The connection between the teacher and the student has not been as adequate as it has been on a face-to-face learning. Maybe because of the fact that we as teachers are used to these face-to-face learning techniques. And since this technology is new to us, maybe we have not been able to be that adaptive towards this new technology that has come in. Uh, Hold on, here we are. Now, how do we adapt? It's no longer that the big fish is going to eat up the small fish. Now, the speedy fish, the high speed fish, is going to outrun the slow fish, however big the slow speed fish is. But speed enough is not enough. We need to develop an ability to spot and adopt to what is already available. There is multiple things. Just now, as I said earlier, the simulation, the virtual reality, these things are available all around the world. We need to just be able to adapt to these things. And we should not wait for people to create things for us. And teachers need to be trained to adapt to these technologies. So what we need to do, we need to take, we all asked Irfan earlier in the day to pivot, change his direction. He had light coming from his back, so we told him to change the direction. So we need to start pivoting and see which direction we need to take. We need to innovate. We need to develop what is there. We need to innovate and create something from whatever is available right now. And then we need to be able to implement it. And to be very honest with you, we don't have time. So what we do need is a hell of a lot of speed. So all of us are going to transform ourselves as a starter into students. Now we become students of technology, and then we adapt our knowledge to those technology, and we do it at full speed. We do not have time to sort of do this. The third question that I was given was, is distance education a solution? Yes and no. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly of the distant education. The good is that it encourages faculty students interact. You can talk to your teacher directly. It encourages inter-student relationships, so there's cooperation among the students. Active learning, prompt feedback. You get immediate feedback online. There is emphasis on time track, task time. So you have to time frame yourself that this is the timeline that I have to give. I was just reading an article the other day that since most of the corporations that have come online, the productivity of the employees have gone up by 30% because they give them a task in which they are supposed to finish in 6 hours. And employees working from home are actually working harder to get the online things done. Similarly, dental education, you can have the time frame. It's not going to be like that, okay, I've got at the end of the 6 months, so that can wait, I'll do that later. Communication, the distant education communicates high expectation. It respects diverse talents, and there is always diversity of learning methods. And I think that's the good part. The bad part, and especially in countries that we all live in, there are challenges with connectivity. There are challenges by for their pressures on the universities because the universities become more accountable. How do I know that my student online has actually learned the learning objectives that we are supposed to have achieved those objectives? So there is pressure on the universities. The academics, they work around those pressure, and they are expected to respond to that mounting pressure. Online assessment, this Moodle and all their things, it's a difficult task. And so, and it's, you have to log in, you are time bound, unlike what you do it physically. And then there is a lot of talk about how to assess, how to evaluate people. And that becomes, there are multiple theories around that work around that. We have to come around and we have to think, how do we need to manage that? The evaluation is going to be the one of the most difficult tasks. And the ugly bit is that there is the highest rate of dropouts. That's studies have indicated in higher education when it's only distance learning. I do know that University of London offers external program in multiple specialties in dentistry, and I had the privilege of speaking to the dean many years ago. It's not now, and he said that he has a dropout rate of 60% over 3 years. So you have a 3-year program, and you have 60% people dropping out. That's a huge dropout rate, and we need to look into that. Why is that happening? There are social barriers, there are administrative barriers to access and be successful in higher education. Then, social barriers like the family pressures are there. This is family time. I'm sitting at home, and I have somebody coming in, my friends, my kids, and they have to be accommodated. That the administration at the other end at the university is trying to tell me something else, and if the students are shy, if they lack the ability to communicate with the lecturers, that's bad news. That becomes the ugly bit of the online distant education. Distant education is different. Now, new technologies have combined with changing translation, transnational education landscape. So the advantages of distant learning and online education is that you can have, like, four countries, 5 countries are being represented on this very forum. Similar transnational education can be done. The whole landscape can be changed. We can do a lot of sharing. There can be a lot of partnership that can come up. There could be a lot of study models that have been taken in. It's an innovative place. You can have a, a huge market, and when you have a market, you will have competition, and when you have competition, you have no choice but to get better. So this is something that is good about distance learning. So as I said, there are yes and the no about it. These are the yeses of the distance education, and this is something that we probably will have to adapt to. E-learning is becoming more and more important in recent years, and because there are more opportunities available, more apps are being available, and student can be more adaptive towards that. They are more students focused, more student centered. So things are getting better, and it provides a great benefit for individuals worldwide. So I am not restricted to my classroom. I have an open classroom where I have a student in Singapore and one sitting in Timbuktu and one sitting in Africa, and so you have a variety of multinational people that can actually benefit from that specific thing that you are trying to teach. And it can be of whatever level, the highest level of education, and from there, even to general hobbies. So how do we adapt to these things? Oh no, before I do that, I need to tell you, have I missed out this thing? Hold on. No, I have missed out. Just give me a sec, please. Just give me a sec. There should be one more coming up. Oh, I have missed out. I have missed out on a slide in which I had spoken about how to become adaptive and how to adapt to these change. But before I end up, I just wanted to end up with a story of the bridge on River Choluteca. Choluteca is a river that runs in Honduras. And Honduras is famous or infamous for a lot of rains and a lot of these, what do you call those? The storms that comes in. And this river Chaluta had its first bridge made in 1930, and every year it used to get washed off. So 1996, they decided to make an international tender. A Japanese firm came in, gave him his guarantees and warranties, and 1998, in April of 1998, they actually handed over the new river on Chaluta to the government. And it was inaugurated with a lot of pomp and show. And come August, September, rainfall come through. And Thunder Mitch comes in to picture. 75 inches of rain in 4 days. 7,000 people lost their life. Every bridge on every river in Honduras got washed away. Every bridge except the bridge on River Chaluta. It stood there firm. However, what happened was that the roads leading into the bridge and out of the bridge, they also got. And when the storm settled, the river changes course. And the river changes course, and you have this bridge standing there on the side of the river with nowhere to go. So what you see here is a bridge which withstood Thunder Mitch, withstood 75 inches of rain in 4 days, the river breaking its banks, and there it is standing there doing nothing. And that is what I think COVID-19 has done to us. The conventional teaching methods are the bridge on River Chaluta now. And the course of the River Chaluta has shifted towards something new, something innovative. And we need to sort of make an additional bridge so that this bridge can also be used. I'm not saying that the conventional teaching should be taken away immediately, but I do very seriously think that we need to find ways to make it into a hybrid thing initially and then move on from there onwards to wherever the world is going to take us. So the new norm is try to think on something that works both ways. So way forward, this is how I think is we need to recognize that e-learning and e-teaching is going to be a major part of educational activities. And we need to identify first what are the student preferences regarding the use of the e-learning applications. We should not enforce it on them. We need to have this mutual understanding that it needs to be the application needs to be both informative and easy to use for both the students. What is that? What the student need to be brought on board? We need to agree as teachers what are the course content that can be given purely online, what can be given as a simulation model, and what needs face-to-face contacts. And once we have agreed upon that, we need to then develop courses. We need to develop training modules. We need to develop assessments. That's the one of the most because we get answerable for that. Assessment material that would keep the teacher and the student engaged. So it has to be kept very, very interesting. It can't be that lecture. Now, in a lecture, you have this student at the back, which I used to be when I was young, who is half dozing away. And online, it becomes very difficult for you to manage those students. But you need to keep the student engaged in what you're trying to tell them. And I feel the most important thing that's going to happen is we need to train the trainers. The trainers need to be trained. The students will be trained later on, and then these things will start to take a shape later on. And with that, I thank you, and I finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It was so enlightening and so much experience. You spoke with experience and how you have adapted. I was amazed at your digital handling of your slides and everything. It's amazing. So,
I still make a lot of mistakes.
so you are an inspiration.